So this is an excerpt from an article published in 1832 in reference to Black natives in America. And the article reads, "To unravel at last the origins of all the American nations and tribes in pursuing the path which I have opened, by comparing all of the languages mathematically and numerically with each other. To many, this fact of old Black nations in America will be new, yet it is an important feature of American history, as well as the existence of primitive white nations. They're still more numerous." So the article states, and I quote, "California ugly blackish Negroes and the Black Indians met by the Spaniards of Louisiana in 1543, and the moon-eyed Negroes and albinos destroyed by the Cherokees were also seen in Panama. So the language of these Black tribes is called the Yarura language." And the article states that the Yarura language shares 50% similarities with the language of Guyana, 40% similarities to the Ashanti tribe, and 33% similarities to the Fula and Bornu tribes of the Congo, and roughly 40% with the Negro Samang people of Asia. So it was determined in 1832 that the language used by the Black natives of North America was roughly 50% similar to various African languages. So the fact that the original Native Americans were Black is very well documented. The problem is that if you try to research this topic, a lot of the images that you find of the so-called Native Americans are from the late 1800s, and by then the so-called native Black people had already been largely whited out by the white invaders. For example, if you look at these old maps, these maps date to the 1500s. These maps were drawn up when white people first started to come to America, and you can see how they clearly show the natives as being Black. But by the time you get to the 18 and 1900s, the people classified as the native people are not Black. Here we see white people executing 38 people from the Sioux Indian tribe. And this tribe consists mainly of two branches, the Dakota and the Lakota. So if we look at the Lakota tribe, this is what the Lakota tribe looked like when white people showed up. Pay close attention to the Lakota woman on the right-hand side. You can see this beautiful dark-skinned Black Lakota woman and what they originally looked like. And by 1875, they were whited out, and now the so-called Lakota tribe today is completely white. The same can be said about the original Cherokee tribe. We can see how Black they were originally. And we can see the Cherokee tribe today with their white chief and their so-called white tribe, and we are told that these are the original people of America. So something that I want to point out about the original Cherokee people is that they actually wore the same shoes as the ancient Egyptians. And remember, I've shown you guys several times before that the Cherokee headdresses originated in Egypt. So in part 6 of The Mayans Were Egyptians, I showed you guys this Aztec city in Mexico that was built just like the structures built by the Moors, with the 3 castles. So based on this evidence, I came to the assumption that the Aztecs were actually Moors. And I've recently uncovered more evidence to support this. So this is another Aztec city that was documented by the Spaniards in 1524. So this is a map of the city that was made by the Spaniards. So I tried to zoom in on different parts of the city to give you some close-up images of the city. And when I did, I found something very interesting. If you look closely, you'll see that on top of the castle, there is a flag. And this flag is undoubtedly a flag that belonged to the Moors of Germany. So this evidence proves that the Aztec people of South America were in fact Moors. And this ancient symbol used by the Moors was not only found in Mexico and in Germany and other parts of Europe, but this symbol was also found in 1300-year-old rock glyphs in North America. And as I've said before, Sambo is a derogatory term given to Black Indians. And as you can see, Sambo looks like a Moor. And I've shown you guys this, one of the first maps of America showing the Indians, and you can see that it has a coat of arms that belonged to the Moors. So another map that I showed you guys before is this map of Mississippi from the 1600s. And it's important because it shows a castle in the left-hand corner, meaning that there were castles in America when white people arrived. And these are just a few of the many old castles that can be found in Mississippi. So the Mississippi Indians were called Creek Indians, and it was documented in 1781 by a French explorer who claimed that he took a journey with hundreds of Creek Indians to a series of caverns near the Red River above the junction of the Mississippi River. And according to the French explorer, the original Creek Indian ancestors are believed to have emerged out to the surface of the earth in ancient times from the caverns. And he also claimed that the caverns that they saw could easily contain 15 to 20,000 families. And this is one of the earliest known images of the Creek Indians of Mississippi from 1736. So there are two more things that I want to address in this 1832 article. One is the primitive white nations that were said to be in America upon the arrival of white people. And the other is the albinos that were said to have been destroyed by the Cherokee. This image of early America shows a primitive barbaric white man trying to consume a black Indian. And according to the Paiute tribe in America, the primitive cannibalistic white red-haired people were a small tribe who inhabited the area of Lovelock Cave. They were called the Sitka by the native people. And according to the natives, they were a very small group, but they had eaten many native people over the years because they were cannibals. So according to the native people, they had barricaded these barbaric cannibals in Lovelock Cave. And then they put brush in front of the opening of the cave and set it on fire. So according to the natives, they had destroyed this race when they burned them alive. However, there are multiple accounts of an ancient white race of giants described in native legends from many tribes, including the Choctaw, the Navajo, the Comanches, and even the Manta Indians of Peru. So now I want to address the presence of albinos in North America upon the arrival of white people. So this is an old picture of some black natives in America, and you can see that to the far right, they have one albino in their tribe. And here are some pictures of the Zuni tribe that were taken in 1873. And to the left, you can see the albino child. And to the right, we have two men from the Zuni tribe. One of them is black and the other is an albino. So here's a really old picture of some black Indians performing the bird dance. And as you can see, there are two men dressed up like birds performing the ceremony, and the rest of the people are playing the drums. And the bird dance performed by the ancient Native Americans is also performed by various black tribes in Africa to this day. So at the top you'll see a black Native American, and to the right of him a snake artifact that was found in Tennessee. So to the bottom right you can see a man from the Dogon tribe, and to the left of him is a clay snake that was made in Mali by the Dogon people. So we can see the similarities in their artifacts from the Dogon tribe and the native people of North America. And if you look at the Dogon people and the Native American people, you can clearly see that they are from the same bloodline. So when it comes to Black people in America, we are largely divided on one thing. Many Black people believe that there were no Black people in America until white people brought us all here in slave ships. And then we have Black people who are educated enough and understand that the native people of America were Black. So the question then becomes, how did we end up like this? How did we start out as Black natives and end up being classified as unfortunate Black slaves from Africa? And how is it that the white invaders are now called the native people of this land? And the truth is, there's no simple answer, because our circumstances today are a result of several things. One of them being the fact that at some point we stopped fighting, because our ancestors fought and killed the white invaders every opportunity they got. But at some point we stopped fighting. And this could have something to do with the over 500 treaties that were made by the government with the Black Indians. And keep in mind that all 500 of those treaties were broken by the government. So the making and breaking of these treaties took place over a 100-year time frame. And it's possible that during the time of these treaties that maybe the native people stopped fighting white people because they were at this point trying to negotiate. And regardless of when we stopped fighting back and why, the important thing to know about the treaties is that all 500 of these treaties were made with the Indians with the hopes of white people obtaining land. So all of the land that has been acquired by white people to this day was attained based on these treaties that they made with the native people. So the fact that they broke all of these treaties, all 500 of them, this means that every last one of these treaties are null and void, which means that every white person in America, including the United States government, has no right to exist in America. They have no right to own land, and they have no right to be here because their treaties became null and void the moment they broke them, which means that white people rule over black people in America based on nothing. And we can't be surprised by the horrible way that black people are treated in America today, because just look what they've done to our ancestors. And our circumstances will not change because we've become complacent with our destruction. So we will pass down our circumstances to our children and to our children's children as long as we do nothing. Walter Plecker was an American doctor, and he was also the first registrar of Virginia's Bureau of Vital Statistics. He served from 1912 to 1946. He was also the leader of the Anglo-Saxon Clubs of America, which is a white supremacist group founded in Richmond, Virginia in 1922. And he is the reason why all black people in America today are classified as black or colored instead of their original classification of Indian. He even threatened any black person who attempted to put Indian on their birth certificate. And this is an old poster made by the KKK, and the poster says, "The Union as it was. This is a white man's government, worse than slavery." So according to the KKK, the White League, and the White Nationalists of America, a white government is worse than slavery. So it's no secret that the white races who invaded America are responsible for the destruction of the black natives. But the fact that we sit back and do nothing and allow our circumstances to continue to get worse is no one's fault but our own. So in part 6 of The Mayans Were Egyptians, I explained the origins of the Star of David. So the Star of David symbol was first used by the ancient Sumerians thousands of years ago, and then it was later used by Thutmose III, who is your biblical King David, hence the reason why they call this the Star of David. And thousands of years later, the Star of David symbol was still being used by the Moors in the year 1286, and as you can see, the Star of David symbol was used on their coins. And as I've explained in that video, the Star of David is not a Jewish symbol, and it's only been used by the Jewish people for a little over 100 years. So here we have one of the oldest images of the black native people in America. And you'll notice at the top it says Inden Moorland. So the term Inden means Indian, and Moorland was a term used in Europe for the Moors. So some of you might remember the artifacts in the Viking videos that I showed you guys. So artifacts in Europe that belonged to the Moors were called Moorland artifacts. So essentially this poster is showing you an Indian Moor. And you can look on the barrel that's standing next to the Indian, and you can see the Star of David symbol on the barrel. And of course, I've shown you guys before in another video that the slave posters show Indian Moors, not African slaves from Africa, but Indian Moors. The same Indian Moors that were in America when white people arrived. So I want to end this video by explaining a few things about the two different types of Indians that were found in America. Because there were black people with nappy hair and dark skin, they were known as the Indian Moors, and this black race was known as the Moors in Europe and in the Middle East as well. And the Moors originally came from Kush, and their capital was called Meroe, hence the name Moor. after the Kushite capital of Meroe. So the Moors are Kushites. And Pumapunku has been dated to be 4,000 years old by some archaeologists. And if that's true, then that would mean that the Kushites were building H-block pyramids in South America before they built the H-block pyramids in Kush. And the other black race of Indians that were found in America upon the arrival of white people were the black race with straight hair. So if you look at the two women in the picture on the top left, these two women are from India. And the reason that white people actually called the natives in North America with straight hair, the reason they even called them Indians in the first place, was because they had already seen this race in India prior to coming to North America. So when they came to North America and they seen the same race in North America, they called them Indians because they looked just like the inhabitants of India that they had seen prior. So this race can be found all over the world, especially in Asia, India most of all, Australia. The people known as the Aborigines of Australia belong to this race. And this race of black people with straight hair was present in North America upon the arrival of white people, as well as in South America. And when it comes to the mixed races of South America today, many of them have the mitochondrial DNA of this black race with straight hair. So there were two types of black Indians in America, one of them being the Moor with nappy hair, the other being the Australian/Indian race with straight hair. And the truth is that most black people in America are a combination of these two black races. Now, when it comes to which black race actually ruled America, all of the evidence would indicate that the same black race of Moors that ruled Europe and Morocco also ruled America. And the proof of that is in the paper trail of the 500 treaties that the government made with the Indians of America. All of these treaties that were made with the Indians were coincidentally made at the very same time period that the Moors of Morocco were making treaties with the white races of Europe. And they are the same white races of Europe who invaded North America. So the same white races who were making treaties with the Indians in North America are the same white races who were making treaties with the Moors of Morocco. So it's apparent that white people were making treaties with the Moors in Europe as well as the Moors in America at the same time. So, of course, white people broke all of the treaties that they made with the Indian Moors in America, as well as breaking the treaties that they made with the Sultan of Morocco. And today, the Sultan of Morocco is a white man. But it's obvious that the Moors of Morocco ruled America as well as Europe during the time of the treaties. This is why we see an Indian Moor in America with the Star of David symbol that was used by the Moors of Morocco.